So we have a concept that what we are calling infrastructure as code. So what is infrastructure as code? So when we hear infrastructure as code, or you'll see IAC or IASC, it is basically just the managing and provisioning of infrastructure through code instead of manual. I've explained that when we were using AWS and we had to go to the console, that is a manual process. We had to go in there. We had to find what the VPC is, or whenever we are creating an instance, we had to look at what AMI we're going to use, what instant type. So all that is a manual process. But infrastructure, it is when we are managing and provisioning through what we call code. So we are writing some code that is going to do that. So files that contain configurations are created and makes it easy to edit and distribute. So we can just create files, edit them, and I can share it with you. If I'm asked to create an EC2 instance or a VPC, all that I can do is that I can just create the file and I can share it with you. So once I share it with you, because this file, I'm pushing it, let's say in GitHub, then you can get that file and you can run it. So that is what configuration files are. We create them and we're able to share them. So it ensures that the same environment is provisioned every time, as long as I have it in code format. So it means every time I run it, it will always provision the same thing, right? It will always provision the same thing because it is the same code. And that's why it makes it more reliable, right? It makes it repeatable because everything, I'm just using the same code, right? It helps to avoid undocumented ad hoc configuration changes. What this means is if I created an EC2 instance on the console, I can go back in on the console and change maybe a tag and add a tag or change something or modify something on it. Now, if I'm doing that, that is undocumented, right? Because I'm changing something, but I'm not tracking the changes that I've made. So if I'm doing it as code in code format, it will avoid this, because if I will need to change a tag, I have to go to my code. I have to change it in the code. And because of that, I'm actually documenting. And this ad hoc configuration just means going on the console and just making arbitrary changes. So I will avoid that. It is easy to version control because I can push it to GitHub. I can version it. I can create infrastructure in modular components. I can say I want to create a VPC. I can have another code to create EC2 instance. I can have another code to create an S3 bucket. So I can create them as modules, right? I can create them as modules. Then it gives you a template to follow for provisioning. Once you go to the industry, you'll find that in your work, they can have different templates. They can say for S3 buckets, they need to be created using this naming convention. They need to have, maybe they need to be created in this region. If it's the development, it needs to be created in this region. VPCs, they need to have this CIDR block. They need to have this label. So you can create templates that now users can follow whenever they want to provision, okay? So some of the benefits of using infrastructure as a code is there is cost reduction. There's cost reduction because you can write code once and you can just reuse it. Even you can have like a pipeline. A pipeline can run it so that humans are not spending a lot of time writing the same code again. So it is going to reduce cost. It will increase speed of deployment because we can reuse the code. It will reduce errors because once you've written it and tested it once, then you are sure that it will always run the same way without errors. It will improve infrastructure consistency. Infrastructure will be consistent because if I'm running it as code, I know that I'm reducing errors. And if instances need to be T2 micro in this region, as long as I have it in code format, that infrastructure will be consistent. It will eliminate configuration drift. Why? Because I can use template. And as long as I have a template, infrastructure will always be consistent, okay? Now, so these are some of the benefits of writing or having infrastructure as code.